The announcement that the Walt Disney Company lost $10 billion over the last 4 years should be headlines all over the major Disney sites, vlogs, blogs, YouTubers, you get the idea. And yet there's nothing. That is, until now. That Park Place broke it exclusively. Today we're going to break it down even more with Jonas J. Campbell. We'll tell you where that $10 billion went, and you won't believe it. Hello folks, welcome to the Pro Channel. Happy to have everybody coming on board with us today. Make yourselves at home as we begin to relay exactly how the Walt Disney Company lost more than $10 billion in India. Jonas, welcome back.
So glad to be here, and what a lot of numbers we're going to have to go through, but I think we can do it in a pretty fun way. Fun numbers.
Jonas, Andrew of Legal Mindset, he and I did a video yesterday where we talked about the Walt Disney Company losing $1 trillion or more with the Walt Disney World Resort by entering into political avenues and making political speech that drew, scrutiny onto the company. And as a result, they lost all of those special perks and abilities and all that magic they had in Central Florida where they ran the government themselves. So that's going to be $1 trillion, but that's over like 100 years or more. This is a different story because this is a loss of $10 billion in just 4 years.
Yes, absolutely. Only 4 years. And, what's really funny to me is over the last very short period, it's actually been a loss of like $6 billion in valuation. So Disney thought that they were going to be getting a lot more money than they ended up getting.
Folks, let's go to the article right now. We don't make this stuff up. It's amazing. This out of TechCrunch.com. Reliance-backed Viacom 18 agrees to buy 60% of Disney's India unit, report says. This by Manish Singh. And here's what it says. Reliance-backed Viacom 18 has reached an agreement to buy 60% of Disney's India unit, Wall Street Journal reported Thursday, citing unnamed sources, creating a pathway for the Indian conglomerate to form a $10 billion media giant in the South Asian market. The deal, which the Wall Street Journal says will close this month, values Disney's India unit at $3.9 billion, the report said, less than half of what Disney had originally hoped for. Earlier this week, Reliance declined to comment on its engagement with Disney. Now, if we go down here to this next paragraph, though, skipping that one in between, in 2019, Disney acquired 21st Century Fox's entertainment assets for $71.3 billion, a move significantly bolstered by the inclusion of Star India. Jonas, what was the original valuation of what Star India was worth to Disney when they made this purchase?
Well, according to Wall Street Journal, it was between $7 billion and $16 billion, but we got an updated figure recently. So we'll talk about that in a moment.
All right, so on the high end at $16 billion, now on the low end it's valued at $3.9 billion.
Well, that's I just need to point out that's for 60%. There's somebody pointed out to me on the internet that 3.9 billion is representing a 60% stake in what exists there. So 6.5 billion is the value of the entire enterprise in India at this point.
So from the high end, 16 down to 6, about $10 billion. And Jonas, can you explain to the audience out there, how did this happen? How did Disney, in just 4 years, have an asset go from that many billions to this few billions? And as you explain it, I want to remind the audience that, you can sometimes sort of, because of the number of losses Disney has incurred on so many different domains, it's easy for this to get muddled up. But I just want to remind everyone, this is the kind of loss that would sink many companies.
Oh, right. So the first thing I'll point out, this is not the Disney Plus loss of $16 billion before it's profitable or whatever that figure ends up being. It's somewhere between 12 and 16 billion for how much they've spent on Disney Plus and basically said, this isn't going to work. We're going to take Hulu. We're going to smash all that Disney Plus content onto these two streaming services together and rename that into Disney Plus in order to make it look profitable. That's a completely different issue, although it is related. Because this was what they bought from Fox in that $70 billion merger in which Disney overpaid by $20 to $30 billion for Fox, so already in there's a little loss baked in. At that time,
there's a little loss baked in with a $20 to $30 billion overspend.
Yes.
It's a little loss. It's a
yeah,
little loss.
it's spread out across the entire Fox organization. So Rupert Murdoch was hoping to unload these India assets, and Disney was happy to add on all of those Hotstar subscribers to Disney Plus, and the 15 million or something that they just dropped from cricket or IPL or whatever you want to call that they're now saying was not core to their brand. They were very happy to count all of those subscribers in there until they had to switch from Wall Street asking them what their subscribers numbers to profitability. Now, to get to the actual number, valued at between 7 and 16 billion. Okay, well, they are exiting that market altogether. There was a rumor that they were selling the entire India organization. At this point, merging 60% of their organization with their largest competitor in the space is about the closest thing. There's this cascade of events that happened here where Disney had an agreement with a local organization called Z to sub-license out cricket rights. And that was a $1.5 billion deal. Well, Z has been short on cash for a very long time. And there's a great video on Valiant Renegade's channel talking about how Z was, I think they have 2.5 million or billion rupees in the bank, which is not much in real money, like less than $300 million. I don't get hung up on the translation rates. Don't quote me on the translation rates, but they have no money, and Sony was going to buy them. Well, it turns out there was some problems with Z's assets. And so Sony decided not to spend $10 billion to buy this little company that couldn't pay its bills. Well, that caused Z to miss their $200 million payment to the Walt Disney Company for those cricket rights. So at the start of this deal between Reliance Media and Walt Disney India, the deal was valued at $10 billion for 60% of their organization. If you reverse that math out, that says that they expected a $16.67 billion valuation for this company. Well, things got silent on Reliance end for a few weeks after these shenanigans with Z, and something went wrong. So crickets over there, no pun intended.
I get the joke.
It wasn't intentional, but when you wish upon a star, maybe you...
Jiminy, you're good at this. Keep going, Jonas.
Would wish for $10 billion, but it ended up being $3.9 billion for a valuation of $6.5 billion. So let's say $16.67 billion minus 6.5. That is a $10 billion loss in valuation in a very short period of time.
All right, now, Jonas, we've went into the weeds here. The numbers are deep, and a lot of people, they don't know anything about India. They don't know anything about cricket. So just for the mainstream journalists who are watching this video, attempting furiously to write down notes so that they can write their articles on Monday, I want to break this down into very simple terms. So, Jonas, what we're talking about here with $10 billion, $10 billion with a B, Disney was very frustrated recently when Epcot was valued at between $8 and $10 billion. You recall that?
Oh, yes. They didn't want to pay property taxes on that.
So if Epcot is worth that amount, this loss in 4 years is as if Epcot burned to the ground. That's the same monetary loss that we're talking about, and that would be a big deal.
That would really make you wish you had a Fountain of Nations to get some water out of.
Yeah, spray it down with that. At least Moana has semi-working water. Won't spray nearly as far, but that would make headlines. And yet this that we're talking about is really not making any headlines. In fact, we're having to read articles that are talking about something much more expansive in order to get to this major detail that I think it should be on the top of the mind of all of the shareholders. I got a feeling Nelson Peltz is going to be thinking about it. But Jonas, let's do another visual for the journalists out there who are paying attention and trying to figure things out.
Before you say that, can we also point out that $16 billion valuation at the time of the merger, there's been massive inflation since then. So it should have gone up in value quite a bit. If you tack on even a 1% change in something with $1 billion valuation is massive. In this case, we're talking about something that only raised in Disney's estimates by 0.67 billion, only to find out it's only worth 4 billion, or sorry, 6.5 billion. So
Jonas, if you had a real estate agent and they convinced you to buy a $1 million home, and 4 years later that home you tried to sell it and it was only worth $300,000, do you think that's a good real estate agent?
No, I would fire that real estate agent.
Okay, if your
Well,
cousin tells you to
I
buy
might
an
sue them,
antique,
actually.
if your cousin tells you to buy an antique car at $50,000 and tells you this is a great investment because people love antique cars and you can just flip it, it's no problem. And 4 years later, that car is worth $15,000. Is your cousin in trouble?
Well, he's not in trouble because I'm not talking to him again.
All right. Same situation. Bob Iger, he bought this thing. It's valued at a tremendous amount. Now it's down significantly, and he's selling it at a major loss. Is Bob Iger a CEO that we should be emulating, especially when we look at his last 4 years?
You know, I think you make a good point, but what we probably need to do is get someone in there with media experience.
Yes, and bar the doors if they don't have media experience, especially if it's not the kind of media experience we want.
He's lost on every continent. He's sunk organizations on every continent on the planet.
So, Jonas, in the last 72 hours, the Disney company was dropped significantly down on Fortune's most appealing corporations list. Netflix now number one in entertainment. They've taken the $1 trillion penalty that's going to happen to them over the next 100 years as a result of having their court case thrown out. It didn't even make it to trial. It's just thrown out because they don't even have standing. And you're telling me that in the last 72 hours, we found out that Disney lost a further $10 billion, maybe even more, who knows, on this devaluation of their India assets. This doesn't seem to me to be going well for the House of Mouse. So, Jonas, I want to give you the final word on this. What else could possibly go wrong for this company?
Well, there could be massive layoffs coming, of course. We don't know what's going to happen at Pixar, but they've been throwing a 20% figure around, although that looks like it's going to be more like 300 people, that is, and more layoffs coming yet this year. So I can't picture what else could go wrong here. We're not expecting their films to do well, but they're still going to spend a lot of money in order to make those films and try to get them as amazing as possible because they're the biggest ad for the company. I just don't see a way in which they can turn this around short of walking Bob Iger out the door.
Again, folks, the Walt Disney Company is just announced lost $10 billion in 4 years with a single asset. It should be the headline at the top of every Disney blog, vlog, channel, website, everything, because it's that kind of news. That is, like we said, it is as if Epcot burned to the ground. That is the kind of money loss we're talking about. Yet, only on channels such as That Park Place, websites such as thatparkplace.com, and here on this channel will you find this kind of information. I'm sure we'll be talking about it on the Renegade Online show coming up with Valiant Renegade. Of course, he a wonderful supporter of That Park Place and financial partner. Also, folks, we do want to say, too, that yesterday, as we put out the afternoon video, we had just wrapped up filming that when we heard the sad news that Carl Weathers had passed away. Of course, Carl Weathers, having been a key component of The Mandalorian, the actor behind Apollo Creed, and also having been in Happy Gilmore. And so it's going to be a sad time thinking about his loss, especially given how kind and sincere he is said to have been behind the scenes. We've got some people who knew him well who are on our team, and so we wish all the best to his family and friends, and send a special message out to Gina Carano. We hate that this has happened and hate to hear that someone has passed away, especially as healthy and as vibrant and as positive as he was. So, thinking of Carl Weathers and all his crew.
He was a superstar. Yes.
Jonas, what do you got coming up on That Park Place in the next week?
Well, we'll be talking, if anything else comes out about Epic Universe, which it sounds like we're going to get a nice slow drip of incredible information coming up with that. And of course, we are covering what sounds like is going to be the year of Shadow the Hedgehog over there. We will be covering the disaster over at Disney, but because we want to cover positive things, we might have to deviate a little bit in our coverage there.
I gotta say,
and let's not forget that we'll be prepping everybody for the next shareholders call, which is that in 1 week?
It is not many days now. But Jonas, I gotta say, I don't think Disney ever thought that Shadow the Hedgehog, not even Sonic, but Shadow the Hedgehog, might be coming for Mufasa, and that it might be a real threat. But this could be Jim Carrey's last film. We think we know the voice actor behind Shadow the Hedgehog. It's a tremendous casting. if it turns out to be true, and there's just a lot going for this movie. So who knows what'll happen, but I can't wait to watch your videos. Folks, make sure you subscribe to That Park Place, the YouTube channel, as well as this one. Like, subscribe, and folks, click it, stick it to the algorithms. It's the notification bell. Drop a comment down below, and do let us know your thoughts. And folks, wherever you are and whatever you're doing, keep learning, keep growing, keep having fun, and in honor of Carl Weathers, everybody be kind.
My brain is fried and I can't think of things to do to people, like Jonas or Culture. I mean, leaving them in this place of what's next is ideal and all, but other than going to an extreme that would rip them limb from limb or something, I got nothing. Jose, what do you think?
My name's Jose. We could reenact the chase scene with that Greg from Kocho Casino Royale.
What? That doesn't even make sense.
Okay, we could reattempt to cook Jonas like a big fish on the island of the Clone Wars. Or is that too redundant?
Why don't you try talking slower and louder?
You guys could do that.
Is that
Or you could go to that part. Ow! Oh, my head. Why'd you do that, man? I was like, wait. You guys are insane. Oh, I'm out of here.